Good evening and happy Friday. Happy Friday. It is a Friday, March. It is the last Friday in March. It is the last Friday in March, and this is a pre recorded Cultivating Conversations, but it's going to be great nonetheless. This is the last Friday of March, and we are rounding out our Celebrating Women Making History Now. So, Cultivating Conversations is a podcast. It is a platform where we have thought-provoking conversations about life, love, the pursuit of happiness, and everything in between. I am your host, Stacey T. And like I said, we are celebrating Women's History Month, and we are rounding out. This is the fourth week, and the last 3 weeks were great, and this week is going to be no different. So I'm going to bring my special guest up. She is a writer. She is a wellness coach, wellness guru, if you will. She has a lot of information and knowledge about our wellness and our health, mentally, physically, emotionally, and all of those things. She is an SU alum. So yes, I am a little bit biased because she is an Orange woman, and Orange women do it the best. So without further ado, I am going to bring my good sis all the way from the DMV, Serena Wills.
Hi.
Hey.
I love that intro. Like, where's the orange and blue in my room? Darn it. Okay. In my heart, girls, in my heart.
How are you doing? How are you doing?
I'm blessed. I'm highly favored.
Yeah.
It is really crazy how fast March has gone by.
I know.
A little
I
crazy.
know. But by the time this episode airs, it will be spring. So hopefully
Oh my
spring will be
gosh.
springing.
Yes.
And the weather will be warmer and all of that
Yes.
good stuff.
Yeah, down here it was snowing and cold last Saturday. We're not going to talk about last Saturday or claim it. We're not doing that. But
Right.
like up until today, it was like in the 70s. So it went from snow to 7 degrees on
Yeah.
Saturday to 70 something degrees. I just, yeah, we're
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
that.
The weather's a bit bipolar, but
We're doing
hopefully,
that now.
yeah, it gets itself together, because I know that we are ready for the seasons to change. We are
Yes.
ready to
Mhm.
just be outside enjoying the beautiful weather because we
Yes.
can enjoy it a little bit more than
Oh my gosh.
we did last year because we
Yes.
were really, really in the throes of COVID. So
Oh yeah. Yep.
yeah. So tell the people, who is Serena
My
Wills?
gosh, I feel like I'm not a jack of all trades because you want to always have your specialties. When someone says, "What do you do for a living?" I
Right.
tell them, "Well, what lane do you want to talk about?" So I am a self-published author. I have three books. I have my fourth one is debuting this summer. Yes, it's coming.
You better pump them books out.
It is coming out. I know my editor is like, "Can I please get your draft?" So I added one last poem literally this week. So I'm like, now I'm done. I'm done. But yeah, fourth book, and hopefully I'm going to try and pump out a fifth book by the end of the year. That's the goal. I don't. Only God knows. Just
Mm,
being obedient to His call.
right.
See, I am a poet, spoken word artist. And I write also health and wellness articles and blogs for national publications and websites because I'm also a health and wellness coach. I'm a publishing coach as well. I help people one on one with publishing their books, and I also conduct workshops about self publishing. And also, I started doing a poetry series recently, which really got a lot of people. It was just so I was a little overwhelmed. Like when you see like 48 people in your workshop, and you're
Wow.
like, wait now, wait, because people sign up and you never know, especially the free workshops.
Right.
It was free
Right.
for them. It was sponsored through the libraries, but I wasn't expecting 40 something people, and we had a phenomenal
Oh, that's
phenomenal time.
amazing.
So
Congrats.
thank you. So that was the Love Is Poetry series. So I'm going to bring that back out hopefully by the end of this year. So that's my writer side. The health and wellness side, I'm a national board certified health and wellness coach, and I'm also an associate certified coach as well. That's through the International Coach Federation, so I could coach people overseas now. That's pretty recent. And I have my own health and wellness coaching practice, Divine Right Wellness. So I do individual group coaching. I also do a workplace wellness program called the Calm Connection Program, where I help people in the workplace de-stress and with stress reduction methods, which is so needed. It was needed before the pandemic.
Right.
It is even more so now because everybody thinks, oh, we're on Zoom. Well, the people on Zoom know it's not easy, but some folks think, oh, they're home working, it's easier. No, it's not.
Right.
It's even harder. People working longer hours. So just helping people learn how to take a time out for themselves affordably. That's my whole thing. Affordably.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody doesn't have money like that. So or
Right.
time
Right.
like that. So
Mm-hmm.
so that is me in a nutshell. I'm also a Lyme disease advocate. I'm a Lyme disease survivor. So I advocate and educate people on Lyme disease. And I'm also an ovarian cancer and GYN cancer advocate as well, because I was once my mother's caregiver when she had ovarian cancer. It's been, gosh, it's been 12, almost 12 years now. And promised to her that I would educate and advocate as much as I can
Mm-hmm.
for ovarian cancer and GYN cancer. So that's me professionally. So I'm also like a notary on the side. I'm like a drive-by notary. I'm a parking lot notary. People come to the parking lot and I notarize in the parking lot. We all have to have our side hustles.
Mm-hmm.
Besides all that, I'm a mother. I have a beautiful 10-year-old. He is chilling. I hope he stays quiet with his games. Can't believe he's in fourth grade. I'm getting ready,
Wow.
looking at middle schools, which is not, I'm not,
Oh,
I'm not ready because we have to start
yeah.
looking now. Because next year, this time, we're going to be talking about graduations. A
Right.
little
Mm-hmm.
crazy. I'm an SU alum. Everybody knows that. But I'm also a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So
You better incorporate.
I just throw that in there.
Right. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's get into it. So what got you into writing?
It's funny. I've been writing since I was a child. So when my grandmother was cleaning out the house, this is when she owned the house when she was living, we found some things around the house. I found one of my first stories I ever wrote. I can't even believe it was still standing. It was on construction paper. And it was in crayon. This is how you know Crayolas are the
Oh,
truth. Okay,
yeah.
because
Yeah.
it was still legible. And I remember, maybe I need to birth this. It was a Cinderella story, but she was black and she loved to roller skate because back then that's what we did. We roller skated. We went to the skating rinks,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah. So I'm like, where did this come from? And she said, oh, I always kept all your stuff. I'm like, this thing was made of Crayola, crayons and construction paper, and it was like stapled. And I
Right.
used to just write because I was very, very shy as a child. I was shy all the way through 10th grade high school. And writing was my voice. My elementary school principal told my mother and grandparents she doesn't need a psychologist or a therapist or a counselor. She found her voice through writing. Our school used to give us a journal to write in and usually get a journal or two per semester. They had to give me a journal per month. Every month I was filling up journals. And it's funny because I just wouldn't talk. Like I was socializing with my little friends, but I wasn't that social butterfly. Totally different story by the time I got to Syracuse. But anyway, but I didn't take my writing seriously, so until I got to high school, I still didn't take it seriously. I'm in high school and I had high school teachers back then saying you will be published. Like, we can't
Wow.
wait to see your work published. And I'm like, what are y'all talking about? Like, I wrote this for my fine arts portfolio. And they're like, this could be a children's book. And sure enough, I took that children's book from 10th grade, 11th grade, and it's going to be a 4-part children's book series. So
Mm.
who knew what I was writing back in the 90s was going to be something published now?
Right.
So It literally took me until I was in my 20s, is when I actually first started writing poetry. In 1997, actually, after graduation, started writing poetry. Think it was just going to be a one off, two off, and been writing poetry ever since. So it's just something embedded in my DNA, in my blood, and just really took it seriously when I moved to Texas for a little stint. And I said, let me just go ahead and take this to another level. And thank goodness for friends and other SU alum who are published authors. And they said, you should submit your stuff to anthologies just to get yourself out there. And I actually got into, a few of them. And that's where it took off. And then decided to publish my own book. It took time, and it also took a serious health battle to realize I got to get this book out there. Like, life is too short. It's not promised. And if I check out of here today, which I had a couple of those moments, my books are in a laptop. What is that going to do for my son? Legacy, people who need my words, people who need to hear what I have to say because it's going to help them. So it was 2012, fall 2012, when I was bedridden with Lyme disease when I pulled out my laptop because I was sitting there.
Wait a minute.
And
come out.
Yes. That's why I say no one has an excuse.
No, because I just need to interject this, and I was going to interject this. Well, I was going to wait until you finish, but I need to cut in for a minute.
Go ahead.
I remember in 2012, let me just tell everyone. So it is because of Serena Wills that I am an author. It is because of Serena, and I am not coming on here to cry.
Okay.
It is because of Serena that I am an author. Single-handedly. I went to school for fashion design.
You sure did.
I was no journalism, none of that stuff. None of that. And I remember after my stint, situation,
I remember that.
Coming back from Hong Kong.
Oh, yeah.
And sitting in my office with these staples in my stomach.
Girl.
And on the phone with you.
Yep.
And you said to me, like, girl.
Yeah.
You been through the ringer. You need to write a book about it. And I was like,
yeah, when's the book coming out? That's what I was like,
girl, please.
When's the book coming out? For real. Like, I was so serious. I'm like she's joking. Like, she's laughing at me. Like, where's this book? I need to see the book.
Because this is bananas. Like, who goes through what you went through? Because unless you know me personally, you would think that I was a flat out liar. Like, this chick is embellishing. She just wants she just wants attention. Like, don't nobody go through all of that. And I did. And it's because and it's stuck with me. It's stuck with me. And at this point, I think that you had already published your first book. Yeah, because so were you bedridden telling me the same thing that you heard, or did you have your own aha moment after you spoke to me? Because my situation, we spoke probably in, like, I would say it had to have been between August and September.
Yeah, because I remember where I was sitting, and I wasn't sick yet.
Okay.
So it was like 2012, because Jordan was really young. I mean, he was a baby. And I remember where I was sitting when I was having that conversation with you. So my book, Reconstruction, Peace of Life, Volume 1, the funny part was it was birthed while I was in Dallas, but it was birthed as a journal for a fundraiser. They told us it was for literary artists. And they said, we always have like auctions and fundraisers for like the visual artists, the painters, the photographers. They said, we need something for like the writers who aren't published. I said, well, how's that going to look? So they actually gave us moleskin leather journals and said either write in them or cut and paste to make it your own. So Reconstruction, the original Reconstruction, was at an auction to raise money for an organization called Art Conspiracy. I was on their board of directors. And I knew I wanted to turn into a book eventually. And I wish I could find this woman who put this seed in my head. It actually was a bidding war over my journal. It started at $5, and the bidding closed at midnight, and it sold for $100.
Wow.
And I was like, somebody bought my book for $100. It's a
Wow.
moleskin journal, like cut and paste. I mean, it was really fabulous. And my friend Dave actually has it. He outbid this woman. The woman was so heartbroken. She came up to me and said, "So where can I buy the book?" And I was like, "Oh." I was like, honey, I'm working on it. And she was like, "Oh, you have like a business card?" I didn't have websites. You know, we weren't on Facebook back
Right.
then. We're
Yeah.
talking like 2008. You know, this happened. But life happens. You know, I came back to the East Coast thinking I was going to move my mom here. We're going to have a great life together. And then she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer.
Yeah.
And then I became her caregiver. And then she passed. And then I'm like, okay, you're reeling over that, you know. And I became my sister's guardian. My sister, Christina, has autism. So me and my grandmother became her guardian. And then I got pregnant. And I was like, okay, you know what? So the book kept getting shelved over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
It took, and even I'm, you know, like you said, I'm telling you, get a, you know, when's the book coming out? My own book wasn't even out, but it took my illness with Lyme disease, like to sit there. I didn't even know I had Lyme disease yet. I was being misdiagnosed over and over and over. I'm home from work. I don't know why I'm sick. Went from running marathons to being bedridden. How does this happen?
Right.
And that's when I said, I got to reach out to my team because I already knew the folks I was going to work with. And I said, this might sound crazy, but I'm laying in my bed. I have my laptop open. I'm looking at it sideways. Sometimes I'm sitting up in the chair and I have to get my book out. It's going to take a while, but are y'all with me? And from the editor, Dawn Adams, to the graphic designer, to my friends who are artists, said, let's do this. And it took a year and like a half, but I did it. But
Yes,
it
you
took that
did.
illness and
Yeah.
me looking at my son like, if I check out of here tomorrow, I'm in anthologies. That's nice, but that's somebody else's stuff.
Right.
I want my own.
Yeah.
And, you know, Reconstruction will be 8 years old this June. Yeah, this June it'll be 8.
Yeah.
And I still hear from people like, how did you know I was going through this? It's like you knew me personally when you were writing this poem. And I said, that's what it's about. That's why I had to get this out in the world because God says somebody has to hear your story.
Talk about because when people, write books, a lot of
Mhm.
times, they're fiction, they're nonfiction,
Yeah.
autobiographies. It's a lot of devotionals. My second book is a tried and true devotional. My first one kind of reads like one, but it's not.
Mhm.
But I'm not familiar with. I mean, I'm familiar with poetry, but as
Yeah.
far as getting it published, um
Yeah.
we have the Nikki Giovanni's and all. Like, talk about how important that genre of literature is when it comes to expressing,
Mm.
because I'll write and express myself
Yeah.
with words that are
Mhm.
relatable, that you can decipher,
Yeah.
right? But with
Yeah. Yeah.
poetry, there's rhythms,
The
and there's
rhythm. Yeah. It's
I don't
great.
know all of the vernacular. I
And
feel I'm feeling a little poet now because I'm on the gram tonight.
you said put your beret on. I was cracking
Put
up.
right on and put a little sky, snap my fingers. But how do you translate, like, your feelings
Mm.
into that, and then create a whole book
A
of
book.
poetry? Yeah.
Yeah. So Reconstruction, and all my books are about life. I tell people whether a lot of it's what I went through, what friends have gone through, I just what I'm observing, and I write poetry about it. So, and there's actually some poems that I wrote back when I was in Africa. That was in the year 2000 that
Mm.
are published in Reconstruction, 2014. So poetry, I tell people when people think poetry, they think William Shakespeare. No knock to him. So oh, I can't understand that. I can't understand you poets. And I'm like, okay, have you picked up a Sonia Sanchez or Nikki Giovanni or Langston Hughes or
Mhm.
Maya Angelou? I mean, I could just go on and on. I mean, we got Amanda Gorman.
Right.
she
She's
just lit the
bad.
whole steps of the Capitol up in flames with her
Right.
poem. And
Right.
people were like, we like now people understand poetry at a different level because of her. Because her poem was crystal clear
Yes.
as what she was saying, but it was poetry.
Yeah.
It's about really, it's a place where you could put your emotions on paper and not be judged. That's why I tell people,
Mm.
when I write poetry, I'm not worried about the grammar. Of course, I go back and do a grammar check. I'm not worried about stuff like that. There are different forms of poetry. And that's why I do workshops, because I had to dispel the myth that all poems rhyme. No, all poems do not have to rhyme. That's actually its own form of poetry out of like the 50 plus forms of poetry there is out there. But it's a place where, we go to really express our emotions, whether it is good, bad, ugly, traumatic, you name it, and just lay it all out on the paper.
Right.
And once you put it out there, like once I write a poem, I feel such a release. I just feel like, wow, this is like, it's like therapy.
Yeah.
A lot of poets I talk to, they talk about how therapeutic, poems are to them. And then when other people read them, especially the poetry that people can understand, they're like, wow, like we didn't know we can like understand poetry, but we get it,
Yeah.
or even if it's in different forms, we know what the different forms of poetry are. But if you're reading, you may not know this is a pantoum poem, or this is a triptych, or this is a whatever.
Mm.
As you're reading it, you're like, wow, like I understand why it's a repeat pattern or lines are repeating themselves. And it gets into like your soul and spirit more when you see those kinds of poems that have the repeated lines. And it's actually done on purpose. They're patterned that way. But poetry is just, I tell people, like Jill Scott will tell people, I was a poet. I am a poet. I'll die a poet. But I was a poet before I hit the mic. I
Mm.
was singing. So a lot of her songs are from her poems.
You can tell. You can
You can just
tell.
tell, like her songs are
Yeah.
just so poetic.
Mm-hmm.
And Alicia Keys has a poetry book. So a lot of these artists were writing poetry before they even had record contracts.
Right.
But yeah, that's what poetry is. It's a place for me. It's a place of peace. It's a safe place for me, a safe haven where I could just write and know that okay, some of this may be published, some of it may not. It just may be for me, and I leave it on the paper, and that's it. And I can share it, which I've been sharing on my YouTube channel or IG, and other people are like, wow, I needed to hear that. I was in a place today. I needed to hear this.
Yeah. Yeah. I was because you said you leave it on a paper that's that, but then you pick it up
Yeah.
and you speak it. So
Yes.
you have the written poetry
Yeah.
and then you have the spoken
The spoken
word.
word. Yeah.
So I mean, I and because 9 times out of 10, a lot of the books, like I wouldn't, unless I'm doing like a read for like an event, like I wouldn't
Hmm.
sit, or maybe I would sit and read um a passage off of like from a page from my book, right?
Got you.
It's probably not as um normal, if you
Hmm.
will, as it is speaking like spoken word
Yeah.
from off the pages of
Yeah.
your poetry. So
Yeah.
when you do that, do you explain what um what the poem is before you speak it?
Hmm.
If it's something that you feel like it won't be easily
Understood.
understood.
Got you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it depends. For me, I like to tell the story. I do know some poets who go boom right into it, and then their poem just speaks for itself, and
Mhm.
they may tell a story afterwards. Everybody has their own style, but I
Mhm.
love to do an intro so people know where my mind was, you know, when I was writing this poem, or where my mind was when I was compiling the book. Like, how did you put these poems together? That's the question I always get. How did all of these get all added in there? When do you know when you're done with the
Right.
book is another question. And
Yeah.
then the spoken word part of it, I actually did a recording last week. I can't wait for it to come out. Is through an organization called Creative Suitland. It's called House of Legends, and we were able to do spoken word, and it was recorded, and it's just nice because people can now hear. the emotion that's coming from the poem. So you
Right.
might read it one way, but when it's like, wow, when she reads it, now I see like where her emotions were with that line,
Mm-hmm.
or how that resonates with someone. You know, some people, some spoken word artists or slam poets, that's a whole different level
Mm-hmm.
of poetry. They really go in, and those are the ones who sometimes are competing, and stuff. But you just feel the emotions. Like you just have no choice but to feel the emotions when it comes to spoken word.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll
Uh-oh.
maybe I'll write a poem.
Uh-oh, here we go.
To be.
I tell folks come to my poetry class. Like last month, it was a 3-part series. I had people in there who never wrote a poem in their life. I love when they're like, I never wrote a poem in my life. And when they read their poem, it's like mic drops. It's like if I had a mic, I would just throw it at you. Like, you
Mm,
know, but
wow.
they always had it in them. Like they had this story in them that had to be told. And they said we didn't know how else to tell it, but now we know these different forms of poetry.
Yeah.
Like narrative poetry is a story with characters and a narrator, but it's poetic. And that class should have ended an hour and a half. We were there for 2 hours
Mm,
because people wanted to keep sharing, and we didn't want to stop the sharing.
yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was just such an amazing time. And people who had never written poetry a day in their life, you know, and now they're encouraged to write more. I'm like, go ahead and keep
Yeah.
writing. It's in you.
Yeah. Yeah. And we do, but we need the Nikki Giovanni's and the
Ah,
Langston Hughes and
yes. And she's
all of those
amazing.
pioneers.
Nick,
She is.
she if you write her, she will write you back. I have letters and cards I'm looking at now from
Wow.
her. And she's been, of course, I grew up knowing, like just learning about her, Sonia Sanchez, the last poets. Um, Maya Angelou. My mom used to like go to Harlem or Brooklyn and go to the spots and hear the last poets or Nikki Giovanni and Sonia Sanchez. I could imagine what that set was like. You know, so I heard their names growing up. You know, so to I wrote her a letter with my book. I always send her a book. I
Mm,
don't know if I'm going to hear back. You know, I send books to all my favorite folks, you know,
right.
and she wrote me a letter back, like a handwritten letter. And because I know her autograph, I'm like, this is her. It's
Right.
like, this is her. And one of my books, she said I could see the growth in your poetry. So I'm like, she's reading my stuff
She's
because
reading it.
it's just amazing. So and she even tell people like, if you write me, I'll write you back. You know, I'm old school.
That's
And I'm
amazing.
like, this is Nikki Giov, but she's so humble. She's
Yeah.
so humble. They all are, you
Yeah.
know, they all are.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's switch over to this wellness
Okay.
that you have going on, and tell us about this, because I feel like you started this even before the pandemic, but I would imagine that you it's just been an overdrive
Hmm.
um
Yes.
since the pandemic. And I find it interesting that you do like workplace
Mm.
wellness, which is what a company that I worked for
Hmm.
some time ago. They had people come in
Yep.
and talk to us about like emotional IQ,
Mm. Yeah.
emotional intelligence, and talked about like the wellness and the work life
Hmm.
balance and stuff like that. So, how did you decide that, what this is, because you are a wellness coach, correct?
Hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So talk about that.
Yeah. So I tell people, you never know. You might have a plan. And I, you know, my grandmother, all the elders always say, your plan, God laughs at them. Like, oh, she's so funny.
Right.
She's got her whole little life set, and only she knew what I
I'm
had
about
to
to
try.
uproot and tear up
I
everything.
mean, just be uprooting. So I always tell people when I got Lyme disease, I was in a very, very dark place. I know God was like, okay, go ahead and yell at me again. But I tell people he was not the cause of the Lyme disease. But what he did was he shifted and like pivoted my whole career because I had this career in the nonprofit field, and I just knew I was going to be like an administrator or a CEO of a nonprofit one day and all this stuff, right? I had all
Mhm.
this laid out. And then I get bitten by a tick. Didn't know I was bitten by a tick. I'm a single mom. I'm like, how am I going to take care of my child, take care of myself, make sure I'm not going to die? Find the right doctor. And I will say an SU alum is the one that got me to my doctor. SU alums, we just rock. So shout out to Renee De Silva. I'm always indebted to her.
Renee, yes.
Always indebted to her. And she
Yeah.
said, girl, you are not well. I keep seeing these posts at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, talking about how sick you are. You were just running marathons. Like, what is going on? And she said, I have this doctor I found on like Groupon or something like that. And she's an integrative health doctor. You should go see her. And she is still my doctor to this day. I mean, from that November 2012 visit till now, she's still my doctor. And I learned so much about integrative health. And when people hear integrative, they're like, what the heck does that mean?
Yeah, what I was gonna say, like, I'm not gonna even front and be like, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, girl. No, we're gonna So integrative, for example, my doctor is, she was trained as an internist. So she, antibiotics, all of that, medicine regimen, take 3 of these and, but she realized our bodies need a whole lot more to heal. And that's when she went back to school and she studied about integrative health, I know how to write prescriptions. I know how to diagnose my patients, but they're still not getting well. So I want to integrate, nutrition. I want to integrate vitamins and supplements, detoxification methods, because we are living in a toxic society. We're eating toxic food with lots of stuff we don't recognize on the back of those labels.
Right.
How do we purge our bodies? That's detoxification. People hear detox and they're like, oh, I didn't know you had a drinking problem or a drug No, I'm talking about body detoxification, okay? And how to keep your body flushed out in different methods. And or even down to my IV, I had a very heavy IV regimen. I had 14 months of IV treatments. And
because of the Lyme disease.
Because of the Lyme disease. And IVs can come in the form of course, medicine. We tried that route and antibiotics were not working for me at all. So we did vitamin IV infusions and like food grade peroxide to like clean my blood. And literally for 14 months, I was getting IV treatments. And every Saturday I'd be toting my son along and they always knew the nurses would be watching him. So I get my IV treatments.
Like needle IV.
Yep. Yeah, in my arms, my hands, wherever we can get a good vein.
Yeah.
IVs. Yep. And detoxifying but there were other things as well, the emotional piece and the mental piece. So she was like a coach to me, and I had counseling, I had therapy from therapists because I was grieving. I lost my mother in 2010. I lost a sister in 2007, had a horrific breakup with my son's father, in 2011. That's grieving. Yeah. And I was at a job that really could care less about me. Yeah. And getting paid nothing. So all of that was on me on top of being ill. That was actually adding to, so my body just couldn't get well, even though I was in physically good shape. People were seeing the marathons and the African dancer and the spoken word artist and the stuff you would see out there in the open. But inside I was crumbling. And it literally, through my journey to getting back to wellness, I learned about, this integrative health, nutrition, mindfulness. And I will never forget, I went to actually my graduate school, Maryland University Integrative Health. They have a nature care center. And that's where I met my nutritionist and herbalist, not knowing it was a school. And I told her, what is this place? It was like it's this nice, quaint, tranquil place in the corner of Maryland. And at first I thought it was going to be a clinical nutritionist. I wanted to help people because now I started hearing this loud voice, and I know it was God, like, this is your calling. You've been a servant in the nonprofit field. I've trained you to be a servant, but now we're going to take that servitude somewhere else, and it's going to be in the health and wellness field. So nutrition didn't work because I couldn't pass chemistry. And we're not doing that. So I was like, but I don't even want to be like, because clinical nutrition is a lot of work. Health and wellness coaching is a lot of work, but there's a lot of licensure. And I was like, these classes are just, I want to be in this, but it has to be another way.
Mm-hmm.
And my counselor said, you should look in health and wellness coaching. And I said, what is that? And when she told me about it, I said, that's everything my doctors have been doing for me, is coaching me. And I fell in love with the program, and even throughout the program. So I'm already like, all the wheels are turning. From 2015, I was getting better, but I was still sick in grad school. But I will say grad school helped me to heal. I was learning techniques and mindful movements and how to mindfully eat and all these other things. So by the time I graduated in 2018, I already knew my practice name. I already had the name Divine Right. So I always believe that people have the divine right to be well. So Divine Right Wellness. And I said, let me go for the board certification while grad school's still fresh on the brain. So me and my friends graduated and went smack into studying for the board. And that the board exams, it's no joke.
Yeah.
It's a 4-hour exam with a 15-minute break. 15-minute
One.
break. And if you don't come back on time, they would start that test without you. So you need to get back in your chair. And you're sitting there amongst people who are taking their exams to become doctors. I mean, I'm in the room with people like, oh my God, their exam's 12 hours. Like they have to come back tomorrow and finish this up, But, it's the calling got louder and louder. And as I started coaching more people, I said, I have to do more than just individual coaching. And that's when I learned about group coaching. But I always knew I wanted to do workplace wellness. So that's when I developed the workplace wellness program and decided in the pandemic, I still need some credentials for that. So I went back to school. That was like really under the wrap. I think I told you and like 5 other people.
Yeah.
And I got my post-baccalaureate certificate in workplace wellness. And I said, I was in a couple of very stressful work environments, being sick, one in particular. And there are people out there, they don't know how to get out. They have to stay at this job, but how do we balance everything? How can I be happy when my boss doesn't like me? I'm not getting paid well. I'm working 12-hour shifts. I'm not feeling well. I got kids at home I got to feed. My relationship with my man or my woman isn't going right.
Right.
You're at work trying to concentrate and do your job. So I teach people stress reduction methods from meditation, mindful movements, mindful eating. We talk about nutrition. We talk about just really free and affordable ways to take care of yourself. I have a whole thing about detoxifying your life of people. And that's always a touchy subject, but and everybody's like, the room gets a little quiet. And then suddenly people have the aha moments. People have cried in these sessions because they realize some of the most toxic people are right in their circle.
Yeah.
And they're the ones dragging you down, making you sick, making you feel worse. And you might love that person, but you can love them from a distance. Or just, as my mother used to say, everybody doesn't belong in the whole book of your life. So, so really detoxifying, whether it's, lemon, apple cider vinegar, ginger flush, to a foot bath, to people. We talk about it all.
Oh,
so,
wow.
And just to tell people, you got to start with what you have and where you're at.
Yeah.
And you just go from there. Even what's inside your house, what you clean your house with, what you put on your body, because I got my little body balm right here because I use my High Design Beauty. Okay. So, it's a little commercial. So, to the hair, we got it all in here, the hair and the hair serum and
you better come on and advertise.
All of that, little commercial break. So, but I tell people, you don't think about this stuff. I used to have acne back in my 20s. Like, where's this coming from? And it was from the perm I used to have in my hair. No offense, perms. But my perm it wasn't fitting well with my body, but it was the products I was putting on my scalp and in my hair. And then you start to switch and change over, and all of a sudden your face is clearing up. And then the food, we're putting in our body and what you're eating. And because I have all kinds of dietary restrictions, but I tell people all these restrictions are not for everybody, because some of them are now fads. Mine was, you got to do this so you can feel better and live. So But I tell people, don't say, "Oh, I'm going gluten free tomorrow." No, if everybody can't be gluten free, so that's why I really work with people on finding out what they need. And this sometimes it takes sessions or like a whole workshop or two or a few. But I really have like this, my heart goes out to the workplace because we have to make our money. Some people that is their destiny. They are working for a company. They're comfortable there and they want to move up the ladder. I remember hearing that in one of your shows.
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't want to be a business owner or
Right.
have their own practice, but I want
Mm-hmm.
to be happy while I'm here.
Right.
So,
Right.
how can we make this work?
Yeah.
So that's Divine Right Wellness. It was birthed out of me being so ill from Lyme disease and what I was learning and from what my mother could not have when she was sick. And
Yeah.
she wanted so many things. She wanted an herbalist, a nutritionist, and by the time we got the ball rolling, it was too late.
Mm.
And so I wish we would have known about this before. We had
Right.
heard about folks and where to find folks, especially in New York. But you want to make sure folks are legitimate because everybody can say they're a herbalist and
Right.
might
Everyone's
not be.
everyone is, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that. So that's where Divine Right Wellness came from. But it was before the pandemic. And I tell my friends who became board certified with me, who knew we became board certified that a year and a couple of months later, we'd be thrown into a pandemic and we would be needed even more, you know. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It's just amazing how, for a lot of people, and I was reading a meme, and I think I shared it on social media, and it
Hmm.
said it said, I'm paraphrasing, it may not have said it exactly like this, but
Hmm.
it said something to the effect of, your place of pain is
Mm,
your place of ministry.
yes.
It you could have very well have just had a desire, right?
Hmm.
And went and got board certified and got all of the credentials and the accolades and
Yeah.
the papers and the certificates and all of
Yeah.
those things. But when you have an experience,
Yes.
it really hits different.
It hits so different.
So my question to you is, with the wellness coaching and talking about, like, especially like the food and things like that, are
Hmm.
you speaking more from a preventive maintenance or like a reactive, or probably both? Like, how many people come to you and say,
Hmm.
like for me, for instance, right? I don't, for the most part, have health challenges,
Yeah.
but I do have an issue that I just stumble upon, and
Hmm.
I'm waiting for results. I have no idea what is going on, and I won't disclose. I'll talk to you later. I won't
Okay.
disclose, because
Okay.
people are weird, and I'm not dealing with witchcraft in 2022. I'm not.
Okay, I get you.
But I've been exercising and things like that. But
Hmm.
not only in my mind, but I'm like, I, I want to start eating healthier. I do eat
Yes.
healthy, like, the
Yeah.
set aside from the salad that I got from Wendy's, but could have gotten a chicken sandwich, which I did. Something like, I feel like cooking, but for the
I
most
hear you.
part, like, I eat my vegetables. I love
Mhm.
vegetables. I love fruit. I need to do better with water, but I
Mhm.
am just feeling like I had
Mm.
some food this afternoon, and I'm not trying to make this into a consultation session. This is the whole podcast. I'm going somewhere with this, but I
Okay.
had some food and I was hungry because
Mhm.
I was doing a lot of work
We're
today.
doing a lot today. Yeah.
But
After what
after
you
I ate
disclosed
the
to me, yeah.
food, I was just like,
Got you.
I
Mm.
felt
Yeah.
so, like, I just felt heavy.
Yeah.
And I just, and not realizing I was gonna come, we was gonna talk about wellness and food and all that stuff. But literally today, I was like, I want to go on a cleanse. I want
Okay.
to just really
Mm-hmm.
change some things. I just want to
Mm-hmm.
change some things,
Yeah.
whether it's, I don't eat a lot of meat like that. I do
Yeah.
cook chicken a lot, but just doing, just doing the herbs
Yeah.
and eating more leafy greens. I love
Mhm.
greens. I love spinach and kale and all of that stuff. I do
Awesome.
um uh smoothies and things like that.
Yeah.
My going back to my question, because
Okay.
I'm going to Africa because I'm tired. So let me bring myself back.
It's just so
Yo, I yeah.
oh god.
How many people do you have come to you and say? Because a lot of times we wait until like the shoe falls and it's like I need to fix
Yeah.
what's broken. Like
Yeah.
how many people do you find that's like, you know what? I want to make changes before or
Mm.
so that nothing happens. Like before anything happens, before I get sick, like before
Um,
are you finding a lot of people now like
mhm. I will say there are people like you. They're noticing like if I eat this or I eat a certain way, something doesn't feel right. But they don't know what that something is, but that's what they know. So they keep eating. And I had a mindful eating workshop during the pandemic, like in the beginning. And one participant said, she sometimes she can't remember. I was talking about how many chews and how your food should be liquefied before you swallow, because some people have digestive issues because they're only doing a couple of chews and swallow the food.
mm,
So that piece of chicken or meat is like is in
oh,
is in your digestion tract, and it takes longer to break it down.
mm,
So that's where all the gas, the bloating. So it could be that it can't even be, it could be not even the food. It's how you're eating.
right,
So we work with I work with people on the how, which is where mindful eating comes in. Are you eating too fast? Are you eating too slow? Are you doing enough chewing? Are you drinking too much before your meal? Because those free refills at restaurants, and then all of a
right,
sudden, oh, I'm kind of full, and the free bread, and then the free this, and then you get your meal, and it's like, I'm taking food home, but you really haven't had any like nutrition.
right,
So I really go through all of that. But if someone says, yeah, every time I eat this or I drink milk, or I'm like, okay, and I'm not a nutritionist. So I tell people I cannot tell people stop this or stop that. But I tell people this is where you have to bring in like a clinical nutritionist or a doctor or an integrative health doctor. But some people will just wean themselves off of food and then slowly reintroduce foods. That's what I have a friend of mine. She's doing that as well. But some people they start to notice that there's something not quite right,
yeah,
and then some people are already there. Like they're not feeling well, and they're like, we don't know what's going on. We've been generally healthy, but something's not right.
mm-hmm,
And I actually have a couple of clients who are on the recovery, like they're recovering from a disease or an illness. So their dietary restrictions are like mine. But sometimes you start to crave that food you used to want,
yeah,
and have, but you
yeah,
try to eat it and your body's like, no.
yeah,
And then us women go through hormonal changes. So during this pandemic, I had to stop eating chicken. I was upset. And I realized every time I ate chicken, this is after I turned 45,
yeah,
I became short of breath and my back would hurt. So I said, I'm going to stop eating
mm-hmm,
chicken and see what happens.
mm-hmm,
And when I like took in chicken again a few days later, the same symptoms happened.
mm,
And I said, and people are like, oh, get the organic free range. I said, it's all of that. Okay. But I said, I have a hormonal shift in my body, and chickens free range or whatever, we're in America. So they have some hormones in there too, and it's not
yeah,
going well with mine.
yeah,
So I'd rather give it up and feel better and feel well than try to force myself to eat something that tastes good going down, but cause me discomfort afterwards.
right. I think this is such an important conversation because especially in our community,
Yeah.
our food is rich
Yes.
and it comes there's so much history and there's so much culture
Oh yeah.
to our food, you
Yes.
know, and and at the same time,
Yeah.
I was at a seafood restaurant and
No.
we was right, I don't know if I should mean that. Well, we was talking about like the I don't know how we got on the topic of like chitlins and
Oh,
hog mugs, and somebody's
woo.
asking me like you, and I was like, I have never.
Mm.
Like, at best, my mother made pig feet, and I've had pig feet before. I used to eat it with hot sauce and
Oh
vinegar.
my.
Just
Okay.
hood, just hood, black, blackity, black, black. But after some time, and I didn't go, I didn't become this militant, no pork eating, but
Mm.
at some point, I was just like, I can't in good conscience eat
Yeah.
this anymore. I can't
Yeah.
tell you why. I
Yeah.
don't remember seeing anything. I just
Yeah.
couldn't.
Yeah.
And now, you know, I don't know, I'm starting to feel that way about
Yeah.
other things. The food that we digest as black people, we was talking about like the fat back in the
Yeah.
chitlins and all of that. And I'm like, well, all of that
Yeah.
that was the slave food. Slaves. Like,
Yes.
this is the parts that they didn't want. And
Yes.
we going to give us a brick. We going to find a way
Yeah.
to cook that brick and put some
Yeah.
lorries
Yeah.
and
Just
we
put
and
some lorries. Just put some and call
it's
it.
gonna be, and
It's gonna be
baby,
good.
it's gonna be
It's gonna be
everything.
good. Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's good for us. And now,
Exactly.
there's all of these health issues that we
Yep.
can, curtail, and we don't have
Yeah.
to deal with if we
Yes.
just changed our diet. And it doesn't mean
Yeah.
to throw out the culture and throw away, you
No.
know, everything or
Yeah.
some things. It's just a matter of changing the way that we cook things,
Yeah.
the amount of salt that we use.
Oh gosh.
Looking at
Yes.
the back of,
Yeah.
I don't look at the back of nothing. I really don't. When people be like, oh,
Um.
sodium, and I'm like,
Yeah. Sodium and sugar. That's a big one. That is a huge one.
I'm
Now
going,
there's these
I'm,
different columns where it's sugar, and then
and
it's
it's different
sugar
types.
added. So it's
Yeah.
like just put it all in one. Don't try to, And if you
And it's
can half a
different
bottle
types
versus
of
a full bottle.
sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's different types of sugar,
There's
like the
different types.
fructose corn syrup
Yep.
that you don't even realize is sugar. And
Yeah.
oh my, you know,
Yeah.
shout out to all of the coaches. I mean,
Yay.
do
Yes.
do
Thank you.
you? But this type of coaching with
Yeah.
the
Health and
food,
wellness coaching
oh my
is,
gosh.
yeah, we
When it,
really, yeah. I mean, and even just a little testimony, not knowing, I used to really have eczema really bad
mhm.
from a child all the way through my 30s. Every spring, fall, I'm like, oh, here goes the pollen and all this stuff. And it was horrible. Like my skin, people thought people were hitting on me. That's how bad my skin used to look.
Mhm.
When I was going through my, healing from Lyme disease, and I told my doctor I have eczema, she said, I guarantee you your eczema is going to clear up because I bet you it was the food. And I have not used steroid cream since spring, actually since that fall 2012, because spring 2013, I was waiting for it. And no, I didn't have to refill my prescription ever.
But what changed? Was it the chicken?
No, I had to get off gluten,
Okay.
dairy. No, I'd taken very low refined sugars, but we think it was between the gluten and the dairy. It was very
Mm.
inflammatory to in my system, and it was coming out through my skin. And I mean, like I have like little patches here and there, but really little patches,
Not compared to what you
not
had.
from like neck to like down to and it was the food. It was, I'm like, oh my gosh. And I mean, our parents didn't know, our families didn't know
Yeah.
what gluten was,
Right.
or, dairy's inflammatory, but that's what it was, especially dairy and black people or people of color. That's why a lot of us are lactose intolerant. We're not supposed to
Yeah.
be intaking dairy. It's a whole other conversation in itself. But those two, I believe, were the culprits because, yeah, it's been gone.
The body is just such a complex
Yeah, my body was yelling
thing.
at me all those years, and I didn't know.
You didn't
I
know.
didn't know. No. So I healed from other stuff. Like, okay, I'm healing from other stuff. All right.
Just from food,
This is
not
for
from
food.
antibiotics,
No
not from
IVs. This
topical
is the food.
creams,
Yep.
from food.
Food. Just the food. Yep.
Oh my gosh. This is great. This is great. So listen, y'all. Listen. You have some ailments? Consider what you're eating. The chips, soda,
Sugar. Sugar is a big
sugar,
one. Yeah.
artificial flavors. I'm
Yeah.
talking to myself. Artificial flavors,
Yeah.
you know,
Coloring. Yeah.
all of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's you know what? What's this? March 17th? Okay, April
Well, it's
1st.
going to be March 25th by the time this is aired.
Oh, right, right,
But yeah,
right.
you do have, so yeah.
March 25th. All right, so I have 5 days from the day. No, no, I'm starting. No, I need to really. No, seriously. I need to this is the Sela moment.
All right.
This is thought provoking. Again, I'm not bad with
Mm-hmm.
eating. It's
Mm-hmm.
I just know that I can do better.
Yeah.
I can do better, and I think that is great with us, like
Mm.
having a black wellness coach
Yeah.
that knows about the history of us, knowing the things that may be okay
Yeah.
or may not affect other cultures or other races
Yeah.
like it would affect us. You
Exactly.
know, a nutrition, not a nutritionist because you're not a nutritionist, but a wellness coach of another race is not going to necessarily know
Yeah.
about the lactose in black people
Yeah.
or the other things in black people and how it affects us at a higher
Mm-hmm.
rate as
Yeah.
opposed to other ethnicities. And I
Yeah.
think that is so great, and just your testimony of just from eczema alone. You know, my
Yeah.
daughter has eczema, my youngest, and I'm looking like,
Like
all
they
right,
need.
well, what am I cooking? What are we eating? Like, what are we doing? What's happening? Wait, what? Because this can be in a lot of things are an inside job. It's not
It's an
always
inside
about
job.
going
Yep.
to the doctor, getting a prescription written and
Mm-hmm.
putting stuff on topically to go inside.
Yeah.
It's the things inside that
Yeah.
need to come out.
Yeah. Exactly.
I've been learned on today.
Hey, all right now.
I've been learned. Wow. All right, Serena. So tell us what you gonna be doing out in these streets in April and for the rest of 2020. Like,
These streets.
what can we expect from you other than
Oh
a
my
fourth and a
God.
fifth book?
Oh yeah, yeah. Because books 4 and 5. So this is book 3. For those who
Yes,
never saw my
so
baby,
pretty.
this is the awakening, and all my covers are paintings by friends. This is by my friend Ricky Johnson Atkins, and also the layout. Shout out to Athena.
Yes.
Shack Water Springs Publishing, not
Yes,
media
yes.
publishing. She's just amazing.
She
You
is.
need to pump your book out. She's your girl.
Yeah.
So yeah, April, I got some things lined up. I have a couple of contracts with library systems, doing workshops, classes, self-care workshops, publishing workshops, poetry classes, you name it. Always looking for more clients. I tell people, no, just keep on coming, please. But either way, serenawills.com is the author, writer, publishing, poet website. And then divineright.com is my health and wellness coaching practice, Divine Right Wellness, where I'm a healing presence through compassionate coaching.
Mm.
And that's just April and like May. Like I said, this summer, my 4th book will be dropping, and just taking in the blessings that God is throwing at me. It's
I
it's
know
it's
that's
our
right.
season. It's my season. A lot of things have been happening personally, as we talked about before, and I'm like, all right, God, keep on, man. Just keep it coming.
That's right, because you deserve it.
I
You've been through
deserve
so
it.
much.
I deserve it.
Yes, you've been through so much,
Thank you.
and I only know a snippet of the things that you've been through. But I'm here for all of the blessings
All
and
right.
all of the happiness and all of the great
Oh, thank
things
you.
that you have coming to you personally in your business, with Jordan, like with everything, with this 4th book, this 5th book. Is that going to be a poetry book as well?
Oh, the 5th book is actually a memoir. This has been years in the making. It's my memoir
I know.
about my Lyme disease battle,
Yes.
and it's coming out. It's funny. I had one chapter missing, and I didn't know what it was until I had a bad doctor visit last summer.
Mm.
And I was like, you're my missing chapter.
Mm.
I'm just saying this in my head, you know.
Right.
But I didn't dedicate a chapter in my book talking about the neurological stuff I went through with Lyme disease and how my
Mm.
central nervous system is still healing to this day, and all the misdiagnoses that people get neurologically. It's frightening because one of my misdiagnoses was multiple sclerosis. And I was like, we're not claiming that.
Right.
But yeah, it was that was before Lyme disease because it mimics a lot of neurological disorders. So that was my
Mm.
missing chapter, was about neurological disorders and also about bad bedside manner.
Mm.
So I thank that doctor. Like, thank you. This is a bad visit. I'll never see you again.
Yeah.
But you nailed my chapter that's missing in my book.
Wow. You know what? I have a friend who she's currently, or she's been undergoing some health challenges, and she was telling me about a situation with the doctor that she went to see. And we've seen these conversations in the news, especially with, women of color,
Yes.
black women in particular, where it's
Yeah.
like we're not given the full breadth of the care that
Mm-mm.
we deserve and that
At
we
all.
pay for,
Yeah, we pay for.
when we go to these different doctors and specialists and things like that. So
Mhm.
I feel like this is just going to be like the full circle
Yes.
moment. You started out with, the poetry, with your mom and with Lyme disease, and now you're doing the memoir and telling the
Yes.
story
Tell them so.
of, oh, this is amazing. Oh, this is
Yes.
amazing. I
My
can't wait.
second poetry book, Crying Tears of Teal, that is a poetically documenting my mother's battle with
Yes.
ovarian cancer and what I saw other women go through and what I was in my family, myself and my aunt, as her caregiver. So I
Yeah.
poetically documented that one. But
Mm.
the Lyme disease one is a full out memoir. There is poetry in there, so there's going to be a mix. But it is like my story, and it's going to be a second part to it because I'm not finished yet. So yeah.
Well, come on with the part two.
That's
You
gonna be a
better
part two.
volumize another book.
Yes,
Oh,
it'll
that's
be another
right.
one. A sister Nicole from Canada, Victory Speak. She has a phenomenal show. She spoke that into me. She said, "Serena, your story's not done yet.
Mm.
You have to have a part two to this." I said, "You know what? Why was I trying to put all this in one book?
Yeah.
The story is still not over."
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yep.
When I did Singlish, before I started Singlish, I was writing another book, a
Yep.
different book, and I
Hmm.
got writer's block. And it was bothering me because I'm like, I don't understand, like, why can't I, like, why am I've hit a brick wall, and
Yeah.
I prayed, and the Holy
Hmm.
Spirit said, you don't have anything else to write right now because what you're to write about has not manifested yet. So I was like,
Yes.
okay. And
The
then
part.
I put that to the side, and that I wrote Singlish. So I get it. I get it. The half hasn't even been told.
It hasn't been told.
Mm.
Yep. So that only documents like the first few years, and I have to like put a pen in it
Yeah.
to now talk about the second book. Will pick up like with COVID and the
Yeah.
pandemic and trying to heal from something and you and pandemic.
Right.
So,
Healing during the pandemic.
and we'll
Yeah.
just see. We'll see how the story ends. But
Yeah.
yeah, folks can find me on social media. It's Divine Right. That one word right there, all one word. Facebook is a little tricky, Serena Wills or Divine Right Wellness. But YouTube, IG, Twitter, even Pinterest, you can find me Divine Right. Because Pinterest is a good site
It
to
is.
good
It
spot to
is.
be at.
Yeah, I need to get my Pinterest life together because
Yeah, get it together,
yeah.
girl. Yep.
Yeah.
And y'all can check me out. My website's buy books from serenawills.com and reach out to me. Let's work together.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Listen, y'all. Okay. Well, I'll save my comments for after. But Serena, this has been a pleasure. I could
Thank
not
you.
have ended Women's History Month
Oh, thank you,
in
Stacey.
the greatest way. You really rounded it out. You really brought it home.
Oh,
And I think ending it with health and wellness, of course, with poetry and writing and things like that, and literature, because you are a Black literary.
thank you.
I don't. You're a Black It's not a literarian. What are you?
They call us
You
literary artists. We're artists.
literary. You are a Black woman, literary
Thank
artist.
you. Thank you.
Thank you. And but equally as important, you are a wellness coach helping people get their entire life in order from the inside out.
Yep, let's do it. Because time is
Wonderful.
short. So life is short.
Yeah,
So
life is short,
while
and
we
whatever
have it,
time we
let's,
have,
yeah,
yeah.
feel well. Even if you're living with symptoms, let's learn how to manage those symptoms so we can still have a life.
Mm,
You know.
yeah,
So yeah.
it's wonderful.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for gracing and blessing my podcast.
You're
I'm sure
welcome.
this won't be the last time I see you.
Okay. Thank
I'll
you.
probably have to bring you back just from the wellness part,
Yeah, that'd be
particularly
great.
yeah, definitely, because that's so important. And
Okay.
we've talked about it a lot, but as a society, but I don't want us to just put that on the shelf because now outside is opening because we never know what's going to happen
Ooh,
next,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming. Thank you
Thank you
for,
for the invite.
lending your time to me and to,
You're
my
welcome.
audience. And yeah, girl, we'll talk.
Okay.
All right. Listen, y'all. This I'm full. My heart is full. I'm so full. I like to thank all of my guests for this month in March: Nika Bell, Toya Imani, Lauren Morris, and Serena Wills. We talked about construction. We talked about beauty and makeup. We talked about fashion. We talked about literature and wellness. We talked about entrepreneurship. We talked about business, and all of these women who I call friends, who I call sisters, they are out here they're making history now. And I couldn't be more proud to be surrounded by some powerful Black women who are making their mark. They are getting their coins, but they are contributing to society. They're giving back to us Black women. They are inspirations to those in their genres, in their fields of expertise in entrepreneurship. They are doing the thing. So I appreciate you all for joining me for March. Women's History, Making History Now. I hope that you are inspired. I hope that you feel empowered. I hope that you have received a nudge to do whatever it is that God has called you to do, whatever it is that you have this burning desire to do, but you were scared to do it. You felt like there wasn't enough money, resources. You have at least 5 women, my 4 guests and me included, as examples. And I'm sure if you really, really look, you will see others in your sphere, in your environment, social media. There are women. We are out here doing it. It's not easy. A lot of the things that have been birthed that we are doing now, it has come out of a lot of pain, but that's the travail. If there's no pain, purpose often comes as a result of pain. It sticks different, it hits different, so that when you are talking to others, when you are ministering, when you are helping others, when you have that business, it is something that is near and dear to you because you fought for it, you cried over it, you nearly died for it. And when you have those type of experiences, you're not going to play with it because you know that the person that is coming behind you may not make it. I feel a preach. The person coming behind you may not make it. So, whatever you are going through now, 9 times out of 10, it is probably preparing you for your next. It is preparing you for whatever it is that's going to be birthed in you and through you, not only for you, not even for you, but for somebody else. And that was my little 10-minute sermonette. So, don't forget Singlish, my 31-day journal for the single and single again is available now on imstacyt.com, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Water Springs Publishing House. I implore you to get the book, not because I want you to buy it from me. I do want you to buy it from me, but I really, really, really want to see us healed and whole and living our best life and getting into sustainable, healthy, loving relationships and marriages that are going to be long lasting, that's going to create a legacy for our children, whether they are children that you birth together or bonus children because the first time you didn't get it right. Let's get it right sooner or later, okay? Let's not continue to create vicious cycles of pain and hurt because of divorce and separation and all of those things in homes that are broken. And just let's do better. Let's know better so that we can do better, okay? So get my book. If you are married, feel free to get it, purchase it, drop me a note at the checkout, and I'll ship it to somebody else so that it can be a blessing to them. I'm just out here just trying to help the people in them. Trying to help the people in them. So that concludes March for Cultivating Conversations. I don't know what's going to happen in April, so you're just going to have to tune in and see. I might go back into the Singlish. I might have some couples. I don't know. We might talk about money management. I'm not sure, but whatever it is, it's going to be a cultivating conversation. So thank you all for tuning in. I love you guys. Happy Women's History Month as it comes to a close. And as I always say, drink your water, mind your business, check on your strong friends, and let's love and take care of one another. All right. I love you guys.